Hi, Janine A. Southard here. Thank you so much for your comments and suggestions from last week about my last video talking about my upcoming Kickstarter for my upcoming novel, Cracked, a Magic iPhone Story. And just like last week, I have a cat again in my video. I hope you guys don't mind. The little tail waving everywhere. So Cracked, I am 88% sure that reading this book will make you laugh and remind you how much you love your best friend. I've been calling it If Douglas Adams and Jane Austen wrote a novel together in Seattle in 2013 with story gamers and iPhones. It's a little bit of a working description, I suppose. So I'm trying out this video blog thing again, as you can see, because this is video blog number 2. So if you've been loving these video blogs, you should let me know. I'm planning to do 3 of them and see how it goes. So yeah, if you love them, you get all of this one and one more. Woohoo! And you should tell me that you love them, because then I'll probably do some more of them. And if you hate them, dude, you've only got one more. Plus you should let me know, because if you hate them and you tell me you hate them, then I won't do any more of them. But I figured that 3 was a good test of branching out into this video blog thing, because it's pretty new for me. Speaking of branching out, I'll tell you that Cracked, a Magic iPhone Story is definitely branching out for me, starting with the fact that it is a contemporary sort of fantasy novel, which, yeah, like, you may be asking yourself, Janine, you know, you're an award-winning author for space opera. Space opera, contemporary fantasy, slightly different. But, you know, like I said, I needed more humor in my life, and this book is fun for me. I think it's fun. You know, I keep telling you that this book is fun, and it's funny, and it's humor, and so on and so forth. But I also backed the Reading Rainbow Kickstarter, and so they've been sending me lots of emails recently. And I am realizing that what I should say here is, but you don't have to take my word for it. At which point, you know, LeVar Burton would cut to some kid telling you about how awesome this book was, but I can't cut to my cat. He would happily be cut to, but he can't give you a description of my book. So instead, I would like to read you an excerpt from the very beginning of Cracked, a Magic iPhone Story. This should take approximately 5 minutes, so if you would like to hear this excerpt, you are in luck. You have 5 minutes of it. And if you don't, you should skip ahead or, you know, do something more productive with your time. Eat breakfast? What time is this? Cracked, a Magic iPhone Story. This is the story of a girl and her iPhone. No, that's not quite right. This is the story of a middle-aged woman and her best friend, though she didn't consider herself middle-aged, and the best friend was more of a roommate with whom she'd developed a friendship. And this description completely ignores a 6,000-year-old elf with whom the woman and her best friend enjoyed story gaming. Let's try this again. This is the story of a woman who wished to find love, but who would rather do statistics and play story games than actively look for it. Especially in the wake of a horrid breakup 6 months before from a man who had never sent her a single gift. Until now. That man, who is otherwise unimportant to this narrative, had no sense of timing. He had, foolishly perhaps, expected something different from their 3-year relationship. Something more. He'd been after crazy spontaneity and over-sexualized carnival stereotypes, whereas she had merely expected companionship and a proposal. So when the breakup arrived instead of a ring box, it came as quite a shock to Morena, for that was the woman's name. And on this day, when she saw a package on her kitchen table sporting his return address, likely carried inside the night before by her staggeringly drunk roommate, she almost took it down, unopened, to the recycling bin in her apartment building's garage. But she didn't. In a fit of whimsy disguised as righteous fury, she wielded a utility knife and tore into the obviously reused box with Amazon.com emblazoned on the side. She slashed the cardboard and threw packing peanuts all over the matted beige carpet, which had witnessed many a discarded packing peanut before. The carpet didn't mind, but it would have worried about usually sensible Morena's mental state if it had the kind of mind that knew how to worry. But it was a carpet, so it didn't. If this book were a movie, the non-trash-bound contents of this box would now be surrounded in a soft yellow glow. There would be swelling music to let the viewer know that this was a significant moment. But since this is a book, and for Morena this was real life, these things did not happen. Instead, she got a paper cut from the crumpled newsprint cushioning a very ordinary-looking iPhone 4S. It is perhaps sacrilegious in this day and age to refer to an iPhone as ordinary. For Morena lived, as many do, in Seattle, Washington, USA, Earth, Milky Way galaxy, during the first half of the 21st century. And during this time period, new iPhones were referred to by such words as sexy and groundbreaking and indispensable. Mostly sexy. To call one ordinary would be like calling Mata Hari or James Bond or Cleopatra some old dead person. If she hadn't turned it on, she might have managed to avoid the few unpleasant moments upcoming in this novel. She might have repacked it in another less damaged box and scribbled "Return to Sender" all over. But she did turn it on, and she saw that the home screen had only one icon, and that glossy round-cornered icon sat in the dead center. This was very strange for an iPhone, or for an iDevice of any kind. They usually overflowed with too many apps for a sensible person to use, forcing the owner to create ever more ridiculous categories until finally giving up and purging a few, only to realize that those apps would have come in handy for leveling a friend's DIY table, or for translating the back of a packet of potato chips in the international food aisle at the grocery store. The glossy green icon sported a cutout of a large heart. It practically screamed romance. Or perhaps bizarre panic button. Morena pressed it, and the app opened with a kitschy chime, expanding to fill the screen with its green branding. A slot machine slid in from the left, as though the app had been designed by a C-list executive new to PowerPoint in the early 90s. She turned the phone to landscape mode in order to better see the user interface. Invisibly, as a background process, and unbeknownst to Morena, the device synced itself to her life. For this was a magical iPhone, and it attached itself to our heroine like facial hair to a male hipster in Movember. Well, there you go. There is your excerpt from the beginning of Cracked, a Magic iPhone Story. Next week, I will be sending out another one of these video blog experiments, possibly the last one, with updates about what you Kickstarter lovers are going to get, as well as, new copies of Cracked. Because the mailing list lovelies have been giving me these great answers to my surveys about what they really want from a Kickstarter project in life. And it's been changing what I thought everybody wanted and been playing with my rewards tiers. You definitely all wanted books though, so that'll stay the same. So yeah, until then, please send me any more comments or questions or suggestions that you have based on this video. You can email me, blog comments, tweet at me. The more places that you send me things, the more likely I am to see your question and therefore to answer it. I probably won't read again in my next video unless you guys say, no, we want to know what happens next, or who is Morena's roommate anyway, and then I guess I will read more. But this has gotten rambly. The point is, hi, I'm Janine. I read you some stuff from Cracked, and I'm gonna have another video next week. You should send me comments and questions. Thanks guys, I'll see you next week.